Nothing ruins a quiet morning faster than the high-pitched whine of a drone buzzing over your head while you're sipping coffee on your porch, barefoot, with your ducks quacking in the distance. I'd traded the city for this patch of land, 20 acres of tomatoes, a creaky windmill, and a flock of ducks that didn't care about my schedule. But that peace shattered the day Lisa started flying her drones over my farm. At first, I thought it was a kid with a new toy. By the end, I was building a signal jammer in my shed, ready to ground every last one of her buzzing spies. This is the story of how I fought back, not with fists or shouts, but with wires, patience, and a stubborn refusal to let someone steal my sky. It started on a Tuesday, the kind of day where the air smells like hay and the sun's just warm enough to make you lazy. I was on my porch, mug in hand, when I heard a sharp, mosquito-like hum. A drone, no bigger than a dinner plate, hovered over my barn, its red light blinking like it was sizing me up. My dog, Daisy, tilted her head, more curious than alarmed, while my prized duck, Hazel, flapped and squawked like the world was ending. I waved my arms, figuring it'd scare the thing off. It didn't. It zipped closer, low enough to spook my rooster, who charged headfirst into a fence post and knocked himself out cold. That's when I knew this wasn't a one-off. Someone was messing with me. By the third day, the drone was back, bolder, darting over my greenhouse, circling my windmill like it owned the place. I grabbed a rake, taped it to a broom handle, and hid in the bushes like a lunatic, Daisy wagging her tail beside me, utterly useless. I swung at the drone, missed by a mile, and nearly brained myself. It zipped away, its hum mocking me. That's when I saw her Lisa, my neighbor across the road, standing on her porch with a glass of wine and a drone controller, smirking like she'd won a bet. Lisa was the kind of person who'd fine you for breathing too loud. She was on the HOA board, always wavy-wying around her clipboard, complaining about my goats, or my unsightly windmill. I hadn't spoken to her since she tried to ticket me for a chicken crossing the property line. I waved at her, but not with all my fingers. She just laughed. That night, I checked my trail cams, set up to catch coyotes sneaking into my duck pen. What I saw made my blood run cold, 3 drones flying in formation, gliding over my fields like something out of a cheap sci-fi flick. And there, in the corner of the footage, was Lisa in a leopard print robe, controller in hand, grinning like she'd found gold. This wasn't a game. She was snooping, mapping my land, harassing me, and she knew it. I called the sheriff the next morning. Deputy Carl rolled up, spitting sunflower seeds, looking like he'd rather be fishing. He said there wasn't much he could do unless the drones touched me or my animals. What about mental distress? I asked. He chuckled. I didn't. At the feed store, I overheard Lisa bragging to a crowd about how some people couldn't handle modern tech, her eyes flicking toward me. My temper flared hotter than my compost pile. That evening, another drone swooped low over my greenhouse. Hazel, waddling nearby, panicked, tripped over a hose, and slammed into a post. Her wing bent wrong, and her tiny quack broke my heart. I carried her inside like she was my kid. That was it. No more playing nice. This was war. I stayed up past midnight in my shed, dusting off old radio gear from my days working comms for the fire department. I knew frequencies, signals, how to bend them to my will. I sketched a plan, a signal jammer, simple but sharp, to knock those drones out of the sky without a bullet. I scavenged wires, a busted satellite dish, and a marine battery from under my bench. If Lisa wants to fly, I muttered, soldering in the dark, she'd better bring a parachute. The next morning, the buzz was back. I didn't flinch. I sipped my coffee, staring at the barn, while the drones circled like a vulture. I wasn't mad anymore, just focused. Lisa wanted a reaction, maybe hoped I'd do something stupid she could twist against me. I wasn't giving her that. I drove to town, hitting up Ray's electronics thrift store, a dusty shop smelling of forgotten dreams. Ray, an old buddy from my ham radio days, handed me a bin of CB radios and coaxial cables without asking questions. Back home, I tuned the jammer, rigging it to the dish. The drones came hourly now, lower, cockier. One flew 5 feet from my porch, its red light winking at Daisy, who barked like it was a flying squirrel. I sided the sheriff again. Carl, eating chili at his desk, gave me the same spiel. Drones weren't, technically, trespassing unless they recorded inside my house. I asked if scaring my livestock counted. He laughed, saying they'd need to testify. But off the record, he admitted Lisa was a known pest, once filing 23 HOA citations in a week, most tossed out. That gave me a spark of hope. That evening, I found a note on my gate in Lisa's smug handwriting. My solar panels were reflecting light, and violating HOA rules. I kept it. EVY Denke. I started seeing her game. The HOA was pushing to turn our farmland into a suburban sprawl, and my land, biggest and privately owned, was her target. She thought she could annoy me into selling. She didn't know me. One night, a drone clipped a cornstalk and crashed in my field, spinning like a dying bug. I snapped a photo but left it there. By morning it was gone, but I had proof her toys weren't in Cyble. I upgraded my scarecrow, stuffing a jammer in its chest, wired to a remote switch and powered by a lead battery. I slapped a private property shirt on it. Daisy watched, head tilted, like she sensed trouble brewing. I tested the jammer with an old RC helicopter, watching it sputter and land softly. Perfect. I set a trap, a shiny weather vane and reflective panels in the field, bait for Lisa's nosy drones. She couldn't resist. The next day, a sleek drone zipped over, circling lower. I hit the switch. It wobbled, stalled, and crashed into the corn. Daisy barked once, like she was cheering. "Welcome to the no-fly zone," I said to the empty sky. Lisa didn't quit. She sent fancier drones, one with night VY shown, and more HOA notes about my non-standard scarecrow. I built a second jammer, hidden in a birdhouse by the barn, and added a trail cam. One night, a tiny drone looped over my livestock pen. I triggered the birdhouse jammer, and it dropped into a muddy trench. The cam caught Lisa sneaking along my fence at 2 a.m., flashlight in hand, looking for her toy. She froze when she saw the camera and bolted. I saved that footage on 3 drives. The sheriff sent Deputy Sarah this time, after Lisa claimed I was using illegal devices. I showed Sarah the jammers, the footage, the letters, explaining how my setup was legal and only active when drones invaded. She took notes, asked smart questions, and hinted Lisa's complaints rarely stuck. I offered her eggs. She smiled but declined. That night, I drafted a report for the State Agriculture Board, FAA, and County Office, packing it with every drone sighting, crash photo, and neighbor's story. I nailed a sign to my gate. Private property under active monitoring. Neutral, legal, but loud. Then, 3 scorched drones appeared on my doorstep, stacked like a twisted gift. Lisa was escalating, making it personal. She marched over that afternoon, clipboard in hand, shouting about HOA violations and a board meeting. I told her she could fly her drones into traffic for all I cared. She stormed off, muttering about lawsuits. I called my neighbor, Mike, and we reviewed footage, laughing when we found a clip of Lisa dancing in her driveway, unaware her drone was filming her. Another neighbor, Ellen, brought eggs and a story about Lisa finding her for wrong-colored mulch. She'd seen drones over her grandkids' play area. That crossed a line. That evening, 3 high-end drones flew in formation toward my greenhouse. I hit both jammers. They twitched, crashed, one into a fence, one into the goat pen, one into the compost pile. Mike whistled, impressed. I backed up the footage and called the sheriff, demanding someone above Carl. I got a meeting with Dana, the county liaison. The next day, I laid it all out, VY Deos, letters, Mike and Ellen's testimonies. Dana listened, promising a re-VYEW. DRI-VYing home, I felt the tide turning. Lisa's next note, all caps and threats, landed in my compost pile with her drone. 2 days later, Dana's letter arrived. The county was investigating Lisa's drone use and HOA harassment. Mike brought news. Lisa's plan to rezone our land for a housing project had leaked, slipped under the church door. The town buzzed. Ellen dropped off a petition signed by 12 neighbors, tired of Lisa's drones and rules. A news van showed up, and I told my story on the porch, showing the crashed drones and Hazel's limp. The segment aired, short but sharp, with neighbors speaking out. Lisa called an HOA meeting, but it backfired. Ellen read the petition, neighbors shared stories, and Lisa was voted off the board. Her lawyer's email came next, threatening a suit for property damage and defamation. I forwarded it to my attorney, Tom, who filed a countersuit for trespassing, harassment, and animal endangerment, backed by every shred of evidence. A privacy group offered to cover legal costs, seeing my fight as a stand against rural surveillance. In court, Lisa's smugness crumbled. We showed her trespassing on cam, drone crashes, Amazon receipts tying her to the models. Mike and Ellen testified about her overreach. Dana's report sealed it. Lisa had no authority for drone surveillance. The judge ruled for metaimages, a 2-year drone ban near my land, and a privacy course for Lisa. I didn't gloat, just nodded. Lisa vanished from public VYEW, her house dark, her reputation shattered. The HOA got new leadership, focused on real issues like potholes. My story spread, sparking calls about drone harassment statewide. A Texas tech firm offered me a consulting gig not for engineering, but for storytelling, for how VYing fought and won. I thought about it, sipping coffee on my porch, Hazel waddling nearby, the scarecrow still standing. One morning, a handwritten apology arrived, unsigned but obvys. I was wrong. I'm sorry. I shelved it unanswered. Closure doesn't always need words. The farm's quiet now, the sky clear, the stars bright. It wasn't about drones, not really. It was about holding your ground, about dignity, about saying no when someone tries to take what's yours. And sometimes, all it takes is a well-placed circuit board to bring a bully back to earth.